Thank you all for joining in on this conversation about Black girls and our position as driving forces in the fashion and beauty industry. My name is Ebony Morris, and I'm a Los Angeles-based visual artist from Oakland, California. I'm currently further pursuing my love for art at UCLA. I have always had an interest in the ways in which art intersects with the worlds of fashion and beauty. Joining us today in a conversation about shifting the narratives of what constitutes beauty and fashion as the moderator of this panel is award-winning actress, producer, and CEO, Tracee Ellis Ross. This is particularly exciting for me to have the privilege of introducing Tracee because of her work surrounding her hair care line, Pattern Beauty, a brand that creates products for textured hair. These are products that I can use, that my sister can use. In fact, I used it this morning. And it's not a secret that the beauty and fashion industry has historically not presented Black beauty and entrepreneurship as a focal point, which has caused our narratives in respect to this industry to be treated as peripheral. Tracee's brand has allowed us to see ourselves in the beauty industry in a way that we have not necessarily been able to see before. Her work helps continue the legacy of Black women and girls entrepreneurship within the realm of beauty that has always existed, but has not always had a platform. I want to kick off this conversation by really asking you, Tracee, when you were a little girl, what was the first message you can remember receiving about beauty and Black girls?
Thank you, Ebony, for that beautiful introduction and all of your beautifulness. I want to first say thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here to facilitate this conversation and to hear from each of you, most importantly, as a part of the 1 Billion Black Girls campaign, the 10-year initiative designed to invest in the innovation, creative genius, and most importantly, the joy of Black girls and gender-expansive youth. I truly believe it is essential to uplift, support, and create safe spaces for all of those who identify as Black women and girls to invest in your safety, your freedom, and your dreams. And so, Ebony, to answer your question, which I think is a really good one, particularly in what you set up around the context of how we are often seen and presented in our world, my first message I received about beauty and Black girls was from within my family. And I was told and shown that beauty comes from within. And also that the bigger, the better when it comes to your hair. I come from a family of big hair. And I witnessed the beauty of an embodied self watching my mother, which I think has been my best and most clear example of what beauty is to me. It's a sense of being embodied and fully, and having a sense of selfhood. And then also, I saw the shape of my curves in the bodies of my aunts. I saw the texture of my hair in the heads of all my cousins. And I feel like each time I recognized myself, I felt worthy and beautiful. But then as I started to grow up and moving outside of my family, those messages were challenged. And you mentioned, Ebony, Pattern. And I don't know if you guys know this, but it took me 10 years to get Pattern off the ground. And when I first came up with the idea, the power of the curly, coily, and tight textured community didn't seem to understand how worthy of celebration we are, how diverse we are, how underrepresented we are, and how little data actually exists about our needs and habits. So that being said, I would prefer to hear from you guys now. And I have some questions for you. And I want to start, Ebony, you told us a little bit about yourself, but Anyia, beautiful Anyia Williams, I would love for you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself so we can get to know you a little, and then I'll dive into the questions.
Okay, well, I'm Anyia Williams. Like I said, I go to Xavier, University of Louisiana in New Orleans. I've been here for about 4 years. And throughout my college journey, I realized that I came in to do science, and I just realized that that wasn't for me. I've been modeling since I was 16, doing my own makeup, my own hair, for mainly all of my shoes, styling myself. And that's just what I found joy in. I found joy in expressing myself to the maximum and presenting it to the world with pride. And I'm just hoping that with this journey that I'm on, that I can continue to create projects that represent Black women in a beautiful light that they deserve.
Amazing. And I will tell you, your education, whether you change fields, direction, interests, always supports you and will buoy you, because what you learned, you can carry with you into anything. And I always used to say that I mostly in college learned how I learn and what I'm interested in, and that will guide you through anything. It will help you with your work ethic and how you navigate your own life. So Anyia, thank you for sharing that. I'm going to jump back over to you, Ebony, if I may. I love that. Tell everyone again, so we can really absorb what you're studying.
I'm studying studio art and African American studies at UCLA.
Studio art and African American studies. We know what African American studies is. Can you share for a lot of people that might not know exactly what that means, studio art?
Yeah, so I'm studying just kind of like like production of art, creating your own work, a lot of studio space for us so that we can learn like painting, drawing, photo, whatever that means, alongside like, I guess within the realm of visual art.
Mm-hmm.
My main medium is painting. And so, yeah, I usually use like oil paintings and
amazing. And have you always been artistic, like visual artistic, like able to draw and paint and do that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I've been doing it since I was a kid. I don't even remember when I wasn't creating work. I feel like I didn't take it seriously until I got to college. But I think it became something that was so clearly like a must in my life, I would say at the end of high school. And I was able to kind of delve into how much I want to take it seriously and like refine my skills and like my ability to create throughout college.
I think it's really interesting. And I feel like visual art in and of itself is its own language, and a way to communicate, particularly in this world where as Black women and girls, we are not, our narrative, our story, and who we are isn't always reflected. One of the things, questions I wanted to ask both of you, but I think let me jump back over to Anyia first. But I wanted to ask, and so you can ponder this, Ebony, while I jump back over. Do you feel like the way Black women and girls are represented through media and the beauty and fashion industry actually matches how you see yourself? So I'm going to let you ponder that while I jump back over to Anyia. So you said you're a model, a student, and visionary. Yes, can we give you that? Okay. Committed to Black girls seeing possibilities for careers in all the creative industries. Can you share more about why you're committed to this and what your work has been? So we can I want to lay the foundation for us to then ask some questions that I'm interested to hear about you guys.
Okay, so how I got into this idea, I just realized when I wasn't enjoying science, I realized what I was enjoying. And then I started meeting women who worked in beauty industry, hair products, bundles, wigs, from makeup to really anything regarding beauty. And I just wish that I had knew someone ahead of time that could teach me how to navigate in that world. And so I decided to be that person for other little girls. And so I'm in a cohort called the Lighthouse Black Girls, based in Mississippi. And we went on a trip where they basically took us through the history of Black women and basically told us, like, you have a role in this life and you decide how you're gonna give back. And so that's how I decided that I wanted to give back. And I feel like, it's just me. That's what I'm passionate about. And yeah.
And okay, I'm going to jump back to Ebony so you have a time to think about it. I would love to hear how you feel the way you see yourself matches up with how we are represented in media, beauty, and fashion. And what are some of the places you think the beauty fashion industry or marketers can do better? So I'm gonna let you think about that, and then Ebony, I'll ask you that question.
I feel like for so long, there has been kind of this like disconnect of like such a narrow representation of what Black womanhood can look like, what Black girlhood can look like. I feel like it's always kind of plays on like tropes or is not necessarily expressed within this lens of like it being beautiful and of Blackness being beautiful, Black womanhood being beautiful. And I feel like that's starting to shift increasingly. I feel like in like recent years, I feel like there have been so many like brands and organizations and stuff that have like really put I guess Black womanhood in the media in like a different light, and shared kind of like the versatility of Blackness, and like how there's not one way of looking like a Black woman, not one way to be beautiful as a Black woman. I feel like there's just so many different iterations of what that can look like. And I feel like increasingly with different brands, I've at least seen myself more reflected in like the media in a way where I'm like I similarly also like my beauty icons are my mom, they're my aunties, they're like the women in my family that I grew up seeing, and that I've modeled myself after. And I think being able to see all of us reflected, and all of us look so different, like all of us being reflected in the media in a different way, I think is a very new phenomenon. But I do feel like there's more work to be done, but I do see a shift over the past few years.
What do you think changed it?
I think people have just had enough. I feel like that's a big thing. I think Black women, like we want to be able to see ourselves in media. I think that that's not a tall ask. I think that's something that people have been pushing for a very long time. But I think that there are a lot of like people like you with Pattern, people like Rihanna. I feel like different brands, different individuals kind of pushing for this narrative as like a non-negotiable. I feel like people aren't taking it anymore. Like you can't have a beauty line and not have darker skin tones. You can't do that anymore. Like, because we have models, we have people who are beautiful, who are in this industry, who need that.
Do you think social media changed that? Because now a larger group of people have a voice that sort of pushes these companies and retailers and marketing to have to hear the feedback?
I think in many ways, yes. I think social media makes a lot of people more accountable, because so many people, people will just stop following you. People will stop, will speak against you, like and it's very accessible. So I think when everyone is like, this is not right, you kind of have no choice. In many ways, I feel like some marketers and retailers have been like kind of bullied into like having to do this because they just are not okay with it anymore.
Yeah. Thank you. Anyia, what do you think about the disconnect, and where are some of the places where you do see yourself? And then one other part to that question, are there any specific, and I'm not searching for you to say pattern, but are there any specific brands or, TikTok thingies or whatever that have caught you that you felt, oh, I see myself there?
Okay.
I know I asked you a lot of things. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. The disconnect, I believe that, like Ebony said, she said that marketers have been kind of bullied to do it. I think people notice authenticity more than ever. Like the human brain catches on when something is too perfect or something is forced. And I think a lot of marketers make a mistake of creating different types of Black women instead of making them multifaceted and multidimensional people. It's very one-dimensional in the way they, there's always this one loud person, there's always this one preppy person. It's just like, you can be loud and preppy, right?
Yeah.
And I have seen myself in a lot of these companies, but like, okay, I'll give an example with modeling. When I first started, when I was like 14, I went to an agency, and one of the Black agents told my mom, she was like, she has the look, but like a lot of agencies are going to say that they already have someone that looks like her. But then there will be like a wall of non-people of color that look very similar to one another, and they'll be like that one drop, and that's enough. So I think once you do a better job of representing authenticity, then it'll have a domino effect on the way people perceive your brand and everything. Yeah. I do have a brand in mind, Upgrade Boutique. They sell wigs, but they promote it as like, this is for a businesswoman, this is for an everyday woman, this is for a CEO, this is for a teacher, this is for a stay-at-home mom, this is for a student. Like their wigs can be for anyone, and they have like different ready to goes and frontals and all those things. Your company as well, Fenty as well. Fenty started that domino effect of like, you know, next time you drop a foundation line, you have to come with 50 shades and or it's just not going to work out for you. So
yeah, it's really interesting. And so, what do you think you've learned, Anyia, from, because, you know, it was biology and marketing, and now you want to be in the beauty space. What have you learned about the intersection of those two things? Because I got to tell you, your education in biology and marketing is really going to help you in the beauty industry. So what do you think you've learned about that intersection between those very seemingly different spaces?
I've learned to stop keeping them so separate. I've learned to transfer what I've learned into the marketing and beauty space. What I can say about the intersectionality of it is that the one thing that everyone has in common is they all want to feel good. And so you as a marketer, you have to project that without placing it on someone. Like you have to offer a solution to their problem.
You know, it's so interesting you say that, because I have always been confused by the fact that marketing is based on making you feel bad so that you think you have to buy this thing to feel better. And my experience has been, when I feel good, I shop.
Yeah.
Like, so I've never understood, like, when I don't feel good about myself, like, it doesn't make you want to go get anything. And so I really wanted to flip that with patterns. So it's interesting you say that. And I do think there's a paradigm shift around that, combined with this idea of authenticity. So we all know that Black girls drive culture, especially when it comes to fashion and beauty. We all know that. Okay, so that's the given. I've asked you about seeing yourself. What do you think? So you kind of said what you think marketers could do better. So Ebony, when you think about this intersection between visual art and industry, where do you see that intersection being the most important? And how is that a sort of an on-ramp to changing or expanding people's understanding of us as Black women and girls?
I think in the same breath of how like the beauty industry has not always illustrated like Blackness and Black womanhood as like something that is beautiful. As somebody who specializes in like portraiture and kind of the representation of Black women, a lot of my work has to do with Black women because that's what I know. That's who I like to create. That's who I like to present as beautiful. And so I think it's the same thing with beauty. I think that there are so many ways to represent Blackness. And I think in doing it in art, it also does it in beauty and in fashion. And I think these industries are so linked and so much more linked than I think we like to think they are. But like art, like all of us are, like, I feel like all creative industries are so linked that when people are creating and representing different things in one of them, it feeds into the other in so many ways. I think that exploration of what it means to be beautiful and I guess who's worthy of being represented is something that I always think about when I'm creating portraiture, and how like historically Black people in general were not being represented in portraiture, let alone Black women, unless they were under the guise of like being a maid, or it's a very narrow like room for, I feel it's a very narrow room for what Black women were able to be represented as. And I think that those tropes are so often also projected in the beauty and fashion industry. Mm-hmm. And so I think that pushing for representation and different ways to like show it, like I feel like a lot of my work, I really love Afrofuturism. I really love what that looks like. And I think that that's so linked to makeup and how.
Can you open that up a little bit so people know what Afrofuturism is? Because I know when I first heard the term, I had an idea, but will you kind of lay that out?
Yeah, so I feel like at least my understanding of Afrofuturism constitutes kind of the intersection of Blackness and also just kind of this otherworldly, I guess, perspective of different things that kind of includes science fiction and things that are a little bit, things that are like more fictional, things that are like just like kind of, I guess like futurist like very like futuristic, but through the lens of Blackness, through the lens of Pan-Africanism. And so that's just such a beautiful concept to me, and it was actually created off the foundation of trying to find an escape and a space for Black people to exist beyond just being a maid or just being reduced to certain things. It's where we're able to kind of be an astronaut if we want to be. We can be whatever we want to be in this like world of Afrofuturism. And so that's why I love it so much.
My understanding, and Anyia, had you heard of that expression, Black futurism?
Yes, I have heard of that expression.
Is that your same understanding?
That is my same understanding, especially with like all this metaverse stuff going on. I'm very excited, but a little frightened about it.
Listen, if you two are excited and frightened, then you can imagine me, because I'm like, what? Huh? But my understanding is it is the imagining of our identities outside of the framework of white supremacy. Mm-hmm. And the freedom that one thinks of oneself, anything you can imagine. And I think that's really also so much of what this week is about, is how can we support each other and invest abundantly into the safety and celebration and the dreams for the future of Black women and girls and those that identify as Black women and girls. And so I, on that note, is there like one message that you would want to give the next generation? So those behind you. So you are 20 and 23, 20 and 22?
21.
Sorry, I didn't mean to age you. I really apologize. So the generation behind you, those that are, 11, what you would share with them about trying to find their vision and their path. Anyia, do you want to go first?
I can go first. One message that I would have is be intentional about your place in the world. Be intentional about the mark you want to make and the people that you want to inspire. Who are you? Who are you doing this for? And what are you doing for? That's my message.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Ebony?
Yeah, I love that. I feel like for me, it's not being afraid to like chart your own path and like create your own journey. I think so often we get I have to go down this straight and narrow, and there's only one way for me to be able to be successful and one way for me to be able to look like this. But I think that there's so much room for creating what you want in the world you want. And I think just feeling firm in that and like moving within like intention, but also being able to not feel restricted and like feel like you can kind of like create whatever you want to create.
Beautiful. My last question for both of you. Either one of you can go first. What is your ultimate dream for all Black girls?
I can start.
Okay.
I feel like for me, my ultimate dream for all Black girls is just that we're able to kind of realize whatever we want to realize. I think just being able to exist and be amazing and like in whatever we're doing and not feel this level of pressure because we are Black girls, because we are Black women. I think being able to just be human and like create things and exist in things and not have to feel like necessarily a pressure to do so, but be able to really just do it authentically and genuinely and on our own time.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Thank you, Ebony. Anyia?
My dream for all Black girls is to not only think outside the box, throw the box away. Throw the box away. The sky is not the limit. You can stand on the sky and you can do whatever you want to do. I know that's easier said than done, because if you don't know, you don't know. But I just wish for all Black girls to thrive without fear, without projection of fear and negativity onto whatever they have going on.
Mm-hmm. So I will end by saying, first of all, thank you both so much for sharing, for being in the world, and for taking up space the way you do so beautifully. I wish both of you a journey, which is the same thing that I wish as my dream for all Black girls, a journey where you know that your soul, your heart, your mind are your tools to go out in the world and make your dreams happen. And that dreams happening is not an Instagram fantasy. It really takes a lot of work, and you are so capable. And I love this idea of throwing the box away. I love this idea of being human. And I think the other thing I will say is remember that we are in a sisterhood with each other, and you don't have to do any of it alone. So I'm so grateful for this conversation. I wish we had so much longer. And I also cannot wait to see who you guys blossom into in the world and what space you take up that is even more than now.
Thank you for this conversation.
So much.
Yes, this was a beautiful conversation.
So good. So good. I don't know what we're supposed to do now.
I say, Ebony, drop your Instagram in the chat because I want to see your art.
Yes, I want to see your modeling.
Okay, both you guys drop that stuff in the chat. You know where to find me, but that way I can find you.